Hey guys, it's Mr. Hing here. I hope you're all well. So, I have had a request for the topic of exponents, but we are doing questions on the negative exponent rule. Now, I'm going to be kind of revising some examples and then I'll show you actually how to implement the rule and we can answer some questions together. So welcome and let's begin. Okay, so as I said, let's first revise some examples, okay? And what we need to know is when we do exponents and when we deal with, the topic of exponents, 99% of the time, your educator will want you to leave the answer in, if they say in exponential form, they don't want to see the negative signs. Okay, so for example, over here, look, there's a -3. Over here, there's a -3, and over here, there's a -4. All of those are exponents. So when they are asking you to simplify and want you to leave the answer in exponential form, they want us to leave it in with an exponent, but with exponents that are positive. Okay, so that's just something to note. All right. Okay, so let's have a look at my first example over here. And we're going to see how we apply the negative exponent rule. And then we'll get into questions. So my number one example is x to the power of -3. And guys, what happens in order for us to make our negative exponent positive is you make this base over here, which is x, you make it a denominator. So you're gonna write 1 over, right? So that makes it a denominator. So you're gonna make it 1, let me just get my laser here, 1 over x, and then once you have done that, it allows the negative exponent to become positive. Okay, so that's basically the rule. Let's have a look at example number 2, which incorporates an actual number. So maybe this will click a bit better for you. So we have the base of 2 and the negative exponent of 3, right? So how are we going to simplify this and leave it in exponential form? Let me just revise what that means. If it says leave your answer in exponential form, remember it means they want the answer basically with having exponents in the answer. So we have this question over here, and they would say simplify, leaving your answer in exponential form. So you would, as I said, you make the base, you bring it into a denominator, you make it a denominator. So you write 1 over 2. Now this is a denominator, and this technique allows you to change your negative and make it become a positive exponent. Okay, but now you're saying, Mr. Hing, what happens if they give this to you, 1 over a an exponent with a negative exponent? So let's have a look at example number 3 over here, right? So we have 1 over, then we already have a base as a denominator and we have a negative exponent. So guys, what happens here is the opposite of the rule that I just explained now. So what's going to happen is my base initially is a denominator, so we're going to kind of bring it to the top and make it a numerator, if I can put it that way. I'm just trying to make it you understand a bit better, because remember, you can write any number. If you write 4 or 5, it's the same as writing 4 over 1 and 5 over 1. These are kind of numerators in their own right. So when we have a look over here, my a has now come to the top, so I can just write a by itself. And then look at this magic. The negative exponent now gets a positive exponent. Okay, or it becomes a positive exponent. Okay, I hope that makes sense, guys. That was just a little revision. Let's go in and answer some questions together. So, my first question is x to the power of -2 plus 1 over x to the power of a positive 2. So, let's simplify this over here. So, as I said, if we have a negative exponent, we can bring this base bring it down and make it as a denominator. So it's 1 over x, and then my negative exponent becomes positive. And then this would stay the same, plus 1 over x squared. And then if you remember from grade 8 and grade 7, if our denominators are the same and we are adding, we can simply just add my numerators together. So 1 plus 1 is 2, and my denominators stay the same. So my final answer is 2 over x squared. And that is how we implement our negative exponent rule. Let's have a look at example number 2. So the example number 2, guys, in another video or in class when I'm teaching, I explain to my learners that when there is a bracket and there's an exponent on the outside of the bracket, so case in point over here, there's negative 4, it affects every single thing inside of the bracket. So the negative 4 is going to affect my 2, and the negative 4 is going to affect my 3 as the denominator. So let's go ahead and see what that looks like. So the 2 will get the negative 4, right? So it's 2 to the power of negative 4, and then written over 3 to the power of negative 4. Because the negative 4, as I said, it affects the 2 and the 3. But now, guys, we are not done yet. And please look at this note that I said here. They want us to leave the answer, so leave the answer in exponential form. So they want our answer to have exponents in it. So if we had to simplify further, we would just go and simply bring this over here, this base and exponent, to the bottom, right? So it becomes 2 to the positive 4, because remember now this negative now becomes a positive. And then we can take this 3 to the negative 4 and then bring it to the top and make it 3 to the power of a positive 4, because then it was negative and now we bring it and make it a positive. So this over here, guys, is my final answer. I hope you are following along. Let's have a look at number 3. So number 3, again, it's asking us to leave the answer in exponential form. So they want the answer to have exponents in it. So let's have a look. So let's simplify this together. So we should be getting the hang of it now. 5 to the power of negative 2. We're going to write it, the base as a denominator. So it'll be 1 over 5 to the positive 2 now. And then times by, because we're timesing, again, we would simplify the same way, 1 over 5 to the 2. And then what happens, guys, we use, do you remember the rules of exponents? Where if we have the same base, and we are timesing, we can simply just add the exponents together like that. And that is how I got 5 to the 4 as my denominator over there. So yeah, that is the final answer. Please do not go and write 1 over 5 times 5, blah, blah, blah. Why? Because they are asking us to leave the answer in exponential form. So they want the answer to have an exponent yeah, in your final answer. Okay, let's move on. We are coming to the end of our video. 2 more questions. Right, number 4, so we have 1 over y to the negative 3 times y to the 4 over 1 times, and then we have a fraction with a bracket around it and a negative 2. So let's simplify them all together. So this now, remember I said this will kind of come to the top and kind of become a numerator, and then the negative exponent will change to become a positive, yay, yay, yay. Times, you can just write this as y to the 4, because anything over 1 is basically itself. And then times, and then remember what I said in the previous question, this negative 2 will affect that x and it will affect the y. So let's write that in and simplify it. So it will be x to the power of negative 2 and then over y to the power of negative 2, because it affects both everything inside of the bracket. Okay, and then we can simplify this further. Let's go into our next line over here. So it will equal This stays the same, y to the 3 times y to the 4 stays the same times, and then look what I did here. I brought the y to the negative 2 to the top over here, and then my negative sign went away because I brought it to the top, and then my x to the negative 2 comes to the bottom, and I wrote it like that, and my negative 2 has now become a positive 2, ta-da, over there. And then we are almost done. Now we can simplify it a bit further because we have like bases. Let me just highlight the bases to you. So the like bases are y, y, and y. So what does that mean? I can add the exponents. So I can add the 3, the 4, and the 2 together. So 3 plus 4 plus 2. And then this will just stay the same as the denominator. So it will equal 3 plus 4 is 7 plus 2 is y to the 9 over x squared, and this is my final answer. So I hope that's helpful, guys. That's the negative rule. Oh, sorry, I have one more question. This question, why I wanted to include it is just because I wanted you to see how we can apply um, how we need to apply the negative exponent rule when it comes to equations. This is an equation question. So say now I have 6 to the power of x equals 1 over 36. 1 over 36. What needs to happen here now, excuse me, is that we remember with equations, we need to make sure that um, we get the same base as the unknowns base, right? So the unknowns base is 6, and we need to make this side written with the power, with the base of 6, okay? So how are we going to do that? Well, the first step that we're going to do is we can see that this 36 can be written with a base of 6, right? It can be written with a base of 6 raised to the power of 2 because 6 times 6 is 36. So that's why it can be written as 6 to the power of 2. So now you can see that I have simplified the equation to 6 to the power of x equals 1 over 6 squared. Now this is where the magic kicks in. I can now write 1 over 6 squared. Can't I write this, guys, because I've taught this to you the whole lesson? Can't I write this as 6 to the power of negative 2, right? Isn't this the same as this? So now what happens is I simplify this. So please don't get confused. I know I said at the beginning that when you simplify exponents, you don't want a negative exponent. But in this case, we're dealing with equations. So we need to use this rule to solve for x. So what ends up happening is I have 6 to the power of x is equal to 6 to the power of negative 2. Because I can write this as 6 to the power of negative 2. And therefore, when my bases are the same, I can now make my exponents equal to each other. So I write x is equal to negative 2. So I just wanted to include that last example because we also need to know how to use the negative exponent rule in equations as well. It's really important. So with all of that being said, guys, I didn't say this in my other video, but if there are any questions, please do post them. Email me. It's in my channel, and just comment or post it, and I'll try get to it as soon as possible. And if it's helpful, please like, share, subscribe. It does help get the content out to others who are looking for this help as well. But thank you so much, guys, and I'll see you in the next one.